government has issued a few of these things of like funding and also allowing, I'm sure you know, and that it really doesn't say that all states need to participate, so it doesn't mean Hawaii needs to. I know there's funds and other things that are involved. I understand that, but it doesn't specifically say states need to be involved in this. It does not state clearly that we need to be issued upon this. Although I'm 17 years old, I know a lot, and I've even talked to many. I've talked to one person up on Monday about this issue, and she kind of discriminated against my age and said that I don't know much. And I understand that they say there's discrimination against this and then of their life's choice. But there's many other discriminations. Like, I can't help that it's my age. I can't help that it's my race. I can't help that it's, you know, my sexuality. And, you know, really, that's not the point. That's how we that's how we came about. And honestly, Abercrombie stated that in his inaugural speech that united we will move forward. How is this united if we are not given the chance to vote? How are we united if we are not given the chance to voice our opinions? He says united, the AINA will move forward. Where is the AINA moving forward in this? And you know, I too have gone through many people, accusations that I'm homosexual because of the way I dress. But you know what? I take a stand, and you know what? I am not, because I know who I am. They don't. And I am strongly opposed. And you know what? I've heard that some people have been mocking my speeches in the last one, and there have been people going against little children saying 8-year-olds, that we're here in the system. That's not right. So just strongly, I ask you, oppose this bill. Thank you.
Next, please come up.
Hello, my name is Eliza Browning, and my number is 3730. My grandfather is the retired Bishop Edmund Browning of the Episcopalian Church. It was through him that I learned that in the church, there are no outcasts. This belief causes me to be in strong support of SB1. I am a third-year law student at the William S. Richardson School of Law. I believe that the right to marry the person of your choice is a fundamental human right. The opposition to this bill is strikingly similar to the arguments used to oppose interracial marriage. Those arguments are now seen as a shameful chapter in American history. I strongly urge you to be on the right side of history, the side of equality. The human and civil rights of everyone simply cannot be decided by the majority of the population. This is because we know that sometimes the majority of the population is wrong. It is wrong to have segregated schools. It is wrong to forbid interracial marriage. And it is wrong to not allow same-sex marriage. You really have an amazing opportunity this week, an opportunity to actually change the lives of so many people. Same-sex couples will finally achieve formal equality, and homophobic members of our community might realize that their fears are unsubstantiated, which is a wonderful thing to realize. I urge you from the bottom of my heart to pass this bill. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Next up, please come up.
Aloha, Honorable Chairman and wonderful committee. My name is Kathy Kama'u, and my number is 3787. I strongly oppose this bill. I am grateful that you are listening to us. I was one of the only 400 that were listened to in the Senate. How you vote will let us know if you actually heard us. The testimonies have been overwhelmingly against SB1. The 1998 constitutional amendment has been brought up often because of its significance. The legislature shall have the power to reserve marriage for opposite-sex couples. We hear the reason for ignoring this amendment is because times have changed. It's 15 years since then and society has changed. But as I was studying this bill, and I'm just a layman, and the related documents, I found something that I wanted you to remind you about. 2 years ago, when enacting the Civil Unions Bill, in the findings 572C-2, the findings state The legislature finds that the people of Hawaii choose to preserve the tradition of marriage as a unique social institution based upon the committed union of one man and one woman. That was 2 years ago. What has changed in the past 2 years? This is a petition of 4,200 plus signatures of people who oppose this bill. It was collected just in 10 days. The people still feel the same way. I attended your hearing Wednesday. I heard the following: don't bring the problems of the Senate into this House. The response was, but we have SB1, so we already have their problem in our House. I say get rid of this problem. Get rid of SB1. If you choose to ignore the voice of the people and not let them decide, at the least, please consider other bills such as HB 6. At least it has wording that adds protection to religious freedom. Many thousands of people have gone out of their comfort zone. They have done things they haven't done before. They will remember this time.
Thank you. Next up, please come up.
Aloha kako. Thank you, Chair Rhodes and Chair Luke. You folks have been here so long, and it's just been awesome that you're listening to all of us. And I feel somewhat vindicated since I was rejected from speaking to the Senate on Monday. My number is 3789. My name is Wailana Kama'u. I'm born of goodly parents. My father, Howard, my mother, Ho'akale, raised me well in a house of love that I cherish the memories there. My father was a fisherman. My mother was a kumahula. She was the chanter for my grandaunt, Iolani Luahini, whose pictures are found on many of your walls here in this building. I come from a very large family, and we're spread out from Papakolea, Waimanalo, Nanakuli, to include on all the other islands. But I'm here to speak of my own immediate family and my 13 mu'upunas and my 5 children. I totally disagree with the handling of this important issue in this forum as a special session. Number 2, I disagree and oppose SB1 for the following reasons. Number 1, I believe marriage to be between a man and a woman is ordained of God, and that the family made up of a man, male man, and a female woman and their children is the core fabric of society and the structure of God's plan. SB1 does not sufficiently support basically that position. It also does not provide adequate language for the protection of religious rights. Now, they have some things in there, but they don't cover it. And as a Christian and as a lay leader, these things are important. I also say, let the people decide.
Thank you. Next up, please come up.
Hello, my number is 3715. My name is Emily Vincent. I'm 29 years old. I have the privilege of working at Castle High School. Good morning, I think, maybe afternoon. I'm not sure. There are no windows in this room. I submitted a written testimony online. I lost it. I'm not sure where, so this is going to kind of be more of a talk story format. I just wanted to stand in opposition to this session. I'm offended, and I hope at this point you are too, that anyone could possibly expect you to extensively and exhaustively debate every potential outcome of this legislation. There's not enough time. It is too big of an issue. That being said, my heart went out to the young man that spoke of the farmer, the gay farmer. He said that he wanted to get married in his 30s. I too want to get married in my 30s. We obviously have different obstacles facing us. But my heart went out to that young man. He cried. My heart goes out to the pastors that are up here in fear for their churches and their congregation. SB1 is going to affect so many facets of our society: education, divorce rate, children. I had more examples. Businesses, businesses and clergy. Tell me how in the United States of America that the new sacrifice of being a business owner or of simply being employed is that your First Amendment right stops at the door because someone else's right to have a gay wedding cake supersedes your right to practice your business as a Christian. It doesn't make any sense. You guys cannot be expected to make this decision in such a short amount of time. It is a waste of our time. It is a waste of our money, whether it's $2 or $2 million. You guys cannot be expected to make this decision. We are continually losing faith in our federal government. Are we now to lose faith in you? If you pass this through, that is what will happen. And I guarantee you, come next election, your services will no longer be needed for the people of the state of Hawaii. Thank you guys so much for listening. Amen.
Okay, next up.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman and the committee members. My name is Craig Gomes, number 3618. Hawaii has been our family's home for 7 generations. I am strongly opposed to SB1. Nature teaches us that males mate with females. It is therefore unnatural for the opposite sex to mate. Unnatural meaning inconsistent with nature. We must not make a law that punishes people for saying the act of homosexuality is against nature and nature's God, or for refusing to participate in the celebration or acceptance that an unnatural union is natural. The U.S. Supreme Court's June 23rd decision left states free to define marriage as a union between a man and a woman, one man and one woman. Section 23 of our state's constitution demands that lawmakers can only define marriage as between opposite-sex couples. This bill, therefore, is unconstitutional in Hawaii. If you pass SB1 as written, you essentially criminalize those that believe the self-evident truth that homosexuality is an unnatural act. All those who exercise their free speech civil rights and religious civil rights must be protected from harm, harassment, and punishment simply for stating or acting on the truths mentioned above. It is one thing for a restaurant to have to serve 2 males at a table. It is quite another thing to force that restaurant by the heavy hand of government to participate in the celebration of those 2 males' unnatural union. If you decide to pass a bill making marriage mean something that it has never meant in ages past, please provide protection for those that simply believe the obvious about homosexuality and those that have faith in God and want to follow and proclaim His teachings. The civil rights of free speech and the free exercise of religion must not be sacrificed for the fleeting whims of recent public opinion, especially when that whim is contrary to the laws of nature and nature's God. Thousands of years of human history and the state's constitution defining marriage between one man and one woman. May God richly bless, protect, and give you wisdom as you make laws for our state that helps and protects our citizens and our society. Thank you.
Okay, next up.
Okay, thank you. Aloha. My name is Hitomi Nakaoka, and I'm a registered voter in the state of Hawaii. My number is 3718. I thank all of you for the opportunity to testify today. I feel that it is crucial that all are given an opportunity to voice their stand, and more importantly, for all of those voices to be heard. I normally would shy away from speaking out in public like this, but feel so strongly compelled that I feel compelled to do so. I speak for the sake of my family, my son, my future grandchildren, and generations to come. I may not be eloquent with my words, but have faith that you will hear the voice of my heart. I'm here today to voice my strong opposition to SB1. I believe in traditional marriage, not only because of my faith, but because that is how I was raised by my Buddhist parents and the generations that came before them. I am now a follower of Jesus Christ, which describes who I am and not just what I do on Sundays. And like being a mother, a daughter, or a sister, I am a follower of Christ in every aspect of my life, 24/7. I am no legal expert, but feel that this bill may have effects on my right to express my religious freedoms. More than that, my concern is how this bill will affect all of us here in Hawaii in every aspect of society. The decision made at this time will not only affect us, but will impact generations to come. It has the potential to forever change our customs, cultures, and traditions that we hold dear. I also believe in democracy and the democratic process and respectfully ask that this issue of such great magnitude be given due process in the regular session. Lastly, I believe in all of you. You have been elected into your positions for such a time as this. You hold in your hands the power and authority given to you by the people to uphold the integrity and values of this state. So I trust that you're hearing our voices with every fiber of who you are and not just in an intellectual way. Thank you. I pray for all of you and bless you.
Thank you. Next, please come up.
Good afternoon. My name is Joanna Tinin, number 3666. Thank you so much for this opportunity to stand before you today, as well as for your service and dedication to our state. I was born and raised here in Honolulu. I'm 31 years old. I now reside in Kaneohe. I have been an active voter since I was 18, and I stand in opposition to Senate Bill 1. Senate Bill 1 discriminates against certain people of faith, as well as others who do not agree with same-sex marriage. The religious exemptions provided in the bill are simply not adequate. I work for a church, but I'm not a member of the clergy. If I happen to be the person to tell an LGBT couple that our pastors would not be able to perform their marriage ceremony, would I be protected from any potential lawsuit should the bill pass as it is written? You've heard from many non-clergy members who feel it would violate their faith to provide services for a marriage ceremony between two people of the same sex. Does this bill ensure that all people of faith will be able to continue to live without compromising their faith? Does this bill, as it is written, ensure that anyone, regardless of their faith or not, who does not agree with the same-sex marriage will be protected not only in regards to marriage ceremonies and weddings, but in all aspects that the passing of this bill would open the doors to? From what I've been reading about Canada, Sweden, and Great Britain, there seems to be a direct correlation between the legalization of same-sex marriage and increased religious discrimination, despite constitutional protections. Will it be only a matter of time when certain civil rights agendas are given blatant favoritism over religious freedoms? Is this why same-sex marriage laws have consistently failed to include adequate religious protection? There simply hasn't been enough time to give the ramifications of this bill the attention they deserve. Please vote no on SB1 and instead give all of the people of Hawaii the chance to consider how it will impact us. Please let us decide. Thank you.
Thank you. Next up.
My name is Vanessa Ito. My number is 3691. I'm a resident of Honolulu, a licensed social worker here in the state of Hawaii, a Christian, and a mother. And my husband and I could not be in stronger support of Senate Bill 1. As a child, I was fortunate to have deeply supportive parents who always reminded me that their love for me was completely unconditional and in turn taught me about respecting, loving, and including all people. For much of my professional life, I've worked with supporting college students with disabilities. And I can tell you, I know what it's like to walk into a room. I have a mother who's completely blind, and I know what it's like to walk into a room and everybody's judging you on one characteristic, even though there are probably 100 more appropriate characteristics to really define a person. And I would say that that's one truth for all of us here. None of us want to be defined by one singular characteristic. They're hurtful labels, they're stereotypes, and truly, we are all much better defined by our passions and by our gifts and our profound abilities. So understandably, no one characteristic should ever be viewed to define us. Yet in this emotional debate, I see opposers of this bill cleaving to the idea that there are some people who are not worthy, not deserving enough, and essentially are not respected enough to have equal access to a right afforded to the rest of us because they are one characteristic, because they're gay. We are all deserving, if simply willing, to sign up for the joys and challenges of marriage, the ultimate expression of commitment to the person or to the people that we love. Please extend this right to everyone. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next, please come up.
I'm Easter Albuena. My number is 3648. Honorable Chairs, Rhodes and Luke, and members of the committee, I strongly oppose SB1. I strongly believe that marriage should not be redefined because God, who is the author of marriage, already defined it for us. He designed it for a man and a woman. I believe that when a man and a woman who decide to come together in marriage, divine will takes place, and that it also follows a natural order. Man and woman procreate, bear offspring, and teach their children about God. Procreation is propagation of life and the society. I stand here for my husband, to whom I have been married for 26 years, and for our children who also believe in the sanctity of marriage. This is also for my friends, young mothers mostly, who could not be here because they have to take care of their keikis. They too believe in the sanctity of marriage. This is for my old mechanic and friend, for a few more individuals who could not be here, some whom I do not know and whom I met in public places, whom I randomly asked what they thought of SB1, and who said they still believe in traditional marriage. We do speak of equality so much these days. Allow everyone then to have an equal share of equality by bringing SB1 into a vote. Let the people decide. Please vote no to SB1. Mahalo, and thank you for your service.
Next, please come up.
My name is Jody Chowan. This is my husband, Dr. Brent Chowan. We'll be splitting the 2 minutes.
Okay,
My
fine.
number is 3647. We are the parents of 5 children who have been students and graduates of Kahuku High School. We are both employed currently at BYU Hawaii, though the views that we will express today are our own views. I first want to say thank you to this committee. Thank you for doing the work that the other governing bodies were not willing to do. I think as much as people have strong feelings for and against this bill, there is an equal part that is speaking out against the process. Had there been process prior to this bill being presented to the public less than 6 days ago, I think a lot of issues could have been addressed there. My testimony is just very briefly this. Please, I ask you to put intent and meaning into whatever measure you might consider. I am against this bill. I am for traditional marriage. But recognizing that we have groups with competing interests that you, as our governing body, are trying to accommodate, I ask that you consider language and put in meaning into the bill that will be clear and that we don't leave it to the courts to decide. My second request is that you ask for expert witnesses. Where are the voices of our state agencies? Where is the DOE, the BOE? Where is the head of tourism? Where are they? Their silence is deafening on this issue. And finally, I just want to say that religious freedom encompasses the right to practice religious belief without government constraint. As currently written, SB1 will infringe on our ability on our campus to do the things that we've been doing, to believe what we've been believing. We will be illegal in the sight of the law.
Thank you. I'd just like to say that as a teacher educator, one of the concerns that's been raised consistently is what is the impact on the curriculum? Not just what is taught, but when it's taught, where it's taught, to whom it's taught. These are questions that need to be answered, and so I'm here speaking as one who works with future teachers in Hawaii to help get clarification, and it is regretful that some of the offices who could answer those questions are not here to help us in our pursuit of that answer. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next up, please come up.
Aloha Keakua, God is love. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America
Can you
and to
state
the
your...
republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay,
One nation.
Can you state your number first?
Oh, I'm sorry. 3668.
What was that?
3668, Donna Yoshimori.
Okay,
Sorry
thank
about
you.
that. One nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. What does indivisible mean? It means incapable of undergoing division, i.e. SB1, which has already caused much division in our Aloha state. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, and the power, and the glory. Unless the Lord builds the house, its builders labor in vain. Unless the Lord watches over the city, the watchmen stand guard in vain. Psalm 127:1. Governor, Chair Rhodes, Chair Luke, and I wish Chair Rhodes was here because he's my representative, and all the representatives. You are elected to represent the people of Hawaii and not your personal motives and agenda. You hear the cry of the people of Hawaii, the kama'aina of Hawaii. Are you listening? Search your heart for the truth, and the truth will set you free. John 8:32. Are we just going through the motions here? Or are you actually truly listening to the majority of the kama'aina, people of Hawaii Nei, who elected you into office and could easily elect you out? May the Lord soften your hearts and grant you wisdom for our islands. In Jesus' matchless name I pray. Amen. Thank you.
Okay, next up.
Aloha kako.
Aloha.
I am a Hawaiian. I'm 71 years old. Oh, my number is 3663. Excuse me. I am filled with so much compassion for our children, our kapuna. They are the ones that are going to suffer in this land of aloha. I am a Christian, and I believe in God's values. He has set them so we will have peace, harmony, and our society will continue. But if you let this bill pass, I'm afraid the deterioration of our country will come to pass. My roots go way back, all the way to Alaska and Canada. My father is a haole. He came from Rochester, New York. My uncle served in the Civil War, and that's where my name comes from. He's buried in Gettysburg. So these values that we hold, that our founding father put together, is the foundation that would make our country strong. But we have forsaken that. We have taken it out of our schools and out of our court system. You, our representatives, use your brains. You are educated. Get yourself educated and find out what the ramifications that this will have. This will have a devastating thing on our children. Right now, my family is preparing to celebrate a new birth. We are having a baby shower. This is my youngest son's first child. And I really cry out, you guys, do not pass this bill. Aloha.
Thank you. Next up.
Number 3784. My name is Aimee Pang from District 21. Good afternoon. I strongly oppose Senate Bill 1 of this special session. I support equal rights and benefits to all individuals and their relationships in keeping with constitutional due process of law, however, not by an arbitrary, confusing, and unfair legislative act that redefines marriage. It is the task of government to channel the gay rights movement, as it has done with other movements, into positive, constructive directions for the overall good of the populace. without destroying the meaning of marriage. When I read SB1, I see red flags of destructiveness. The bill requires that the words man and woman are crossed out from existing statutes in order to assert that gender be disregarded. On pages 12 to 13, there's a huge red flag. The findings that states that the people of Hawaii choose to preserve the tradition of marriage as a union of one man and one woman. An entire paragraph is crossed out. This tells us that the beliefs of the populace has to be destroyed in order to legalize same-sex marriage, which is really a means to an end as described in the first 2 pages of the bill. And the end desired is the end of discrimination. So it seems steps should be taken to the amendment. Steps should be taken for the amendment of such federal law to extend certain benefits to certificated same-sex couples, whatever such legal relationships are called, whether it is civil union or domestic partnership. Marriage has a long-established meaning as being a union ordained by God for one man and one woman. The relationship is perfectly grounded in nature and gives assurance for the continuity and sustainability of the human race. The marriage relationship is different from the relationship between a man and another man, between a woman and another woman. While these types of relationships have existed for a long time, their emergence into the open is no reason for taking unfair steps to destroy marriage as a legal union of a man and a woman. I conclude with a quote written by a wise man. The law abhors arbitrariness and demands clarity, precision, and fairness. Please vote no on Senate Bill 1.
Thank you. Next up, please.
Aloha, I am 3772. My name is Chris Ann Moore. I am an associate professor of philosophy at the University of Hawaii, Honolulu Community College. I come here in strong support of SB1. If you have, I am sorry, been in this room for days at a time, it might appear to you that the majority of the people on this island oppose this bill. Perhaps if you stood with me on the street corner holding a sign in favor of this bill and saw the honking horns, the shakas, the waves, the dancing, you might think the majority thinks otherwise and would be in favor of this bill. If you looked at straw polls that, as one of you pointed out, has a volunteerism basis, you might get another impression. The truth is, I do not know how a majority would go. But what I do know is it does not matter. This nation is founded on deductive logic applied to self-evident truths of equality, of life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. All of the rights enumerated in our Constitution are derived from these basic truths. Our laws are designed to uphold and protect those rights. And except for very few exceptions, there is no logical reason to deny any American the rights afforded to all Americans, and logically deduced from liberty that includes choosing a marriage partner. It is true, these rights may be denied to an aggressive individual or nation that has forfeited those rights. And it must be done for protection of the innocent, criminal justice, or for a just act in a just war. Yes, they have on occasion been denied and may be denied.
Thank you very much. Okay, next up, please come up.
Hi, my name is Deborah Zalesnik, and my partner, Mary Wolkowski. Our number is 3696. I come in full support and very strong support of SB1. This is not about religion. This is really not about families. This is really not even about love. This is not about anything other than equal rights and protections and responsibilities afforded to all. I'm a small business owner. I've owned my business for 25 years here in Hawaii, and I manufacture made in Hawaii products. I'm also a farmer. I'm also a Jew. I'm Jewish. I'm not Christian. None of the testimony here really applies to me. Where does that come in?
I'm Mary Wilkowski. I'm an attorney, small business owner. I'm a farmer, too. First of all, I'd ask the House to adopt the language of Senate Bill 1, with one exception. I disagree that Senate Bill 1 allows people who possess public licenses issued by the state to not perform all civil unions and all marriages. I believe that if the state issues the license, that it doesn't become a matter of choice. Who does the person empowered by the state to perform unifications have the right to discriminate against? A public license to perform civil marriages does not discriminate. I'd like to remind people who have told us all about how large their families are, how many children they are, how their future generations might be impacted by this legislation, to remember a certain undeniable truth, which is that the more children you have, the more likely those children are to actually emerge as gay or lesbian. Thanks.
Thanks very much. Next up.
My name is Johnny Lau. My sign number is 3680. Thank you for allowing me to speak here. Homosexual activists argue that same-sex marriage is a civil rights issue similar to the struggle for racial equality in the 1960s. I believe this is false. First of all, sexual behavior and race are essentially different realities. A man and a woman wanting to marry may be different in their characteristics. One may be black, Asian, white, one rich, the other poor, or one tall or the other short. None of these differences are insurmountable obstacles to marriage. Same-sex marriage opposes nature. Two individuals of the same sex, regardless of their race, wealth, stature, or fame, will never be able to marry because of an insurmountable biological impossibility. So my standing is I oppose SB1, and I'm for traditional marriage. I'm an IT professional. I've been living here for 28 years. And the most recently, I was working at, I'm working for healthcare, and we're working on enterprise data storage issue. I spent 1 week to come up with a solution with my teams, and then I presented it to my other teams, and I got pushed back because they said we need to carefully architect this because there's a lot at stake. This affects a lot of applications, and I agree with that. I like that. It's a good pushback because we need to be careful. If we spend so much time just to address enterprise data storage in IT, this is a huge issue for the society. This is not a small issue. A lot of people said they don't understand what the issue is. So a lot of people don't even know what's at stake. So I'm asking you to vote no to kill this bill. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next, please.
My name is Mark Weber. My number is 3611. Aloha. Legislator, thank you so much for spending your weekend with us. Mahalo. My wife, my Jack Russell Terrier, and I live in Honolulu. My Jack Russell Terrier knows 24 tricks. She can surf, and she's faster than a gecko. And I wish you were here to put joy in your hearts like she does mine, but instead you get me, so I'm going to sing a song. I'm just kidding. Seriously, I am a Honolulu business owner. I've had up to 15 employees. My business is wedding photography. As Mr. Rhodes pointed out, there's been a lot of theology flying around the room, but we don't all believe in God, do we? 20 years ago, I lived in the house we all won. I had a spectacular view. I'd achieved all my dreams. I'd checked the last list on my checklist of life. At the same time, I was desperately empty. We've all got that checklist, fulfillment, happiness, peace. I'd checked the last box. I'd climbed the wrong mountain. I was desperately empty. So instead of checking another box on the checklist of life, I was going to check out. I cried out to God. I said, God, if you're there, I got to know. I lost everything I had in 3 days. I lost my house, my health, my car, my girl, my finances, my business, all of it. I couldn't even walk. God, if you're there, I've got to know. 20 years later, if I could share with you the joy, the peace, the fulfillment that he's put into my heart, if I could show you what he's proven to me, I would, but it's 2 minutes. I can't do that. But I can tell you he is real. He has proven himself. I welcome you to call out. There's a promise in the Bible that says, if you seek me with all your heart, I will make myself known to you. That's for you.
Thank you very much. Okay, members, at this point, let's go ahead and ask questions to the last group of testifiers. Members, any questions?
Hi. Chair, I have some questions.
Representative McDermott.
Could I have the young lady, the attorney farmer? I forgot your first name. Thanks for coming and participating. I appreciate
My
it.
pleasure, and that's farmer attorney rather than former attorney.
No, that's what I said. Attorney farmer.
Tiny Joe.
Now, you brought up a very, very salient point, a good point that I think, and that is if the state issues a marriage license and they don't require the pastor or whoever to execute that fully for everybody, they are actually party to discrimination. Isn't that your thoughts?
No, that's not my point at all. I believe that there is sufficient protection in Senate Bill 1 that religious members of our community, specifically clergy, pastors, priests, rabbis, etc., are definitely under religious protections empowered to not perform same-sex marriages. I'm saying that people who have civil licenses to perform civil marriages should not be permitted to discriminate so long as it's the state that's issuing those civil licenses.
I'm not an attorney. The distinction is when they perform the marriage in the sanctuary, okay, they're still empowered with civil authority to legitimize that marriage in the eyes of the state, correct?
As I understand it.
Right. So my fear is, let me ask you if this is a reasonable fear, that someone will want to make a point and show up to a church and say, we want to get married, and the church says, we love you, you're special, you're part of us. We don't do that. And they'll file a lawsuit, and we'll get a judge, and he'll say, you can still do your ceremony and do whatever you want inside those doors, but the state can no longer be part of enfranchising discrimination. So you can do your marriage, but it will no longer have the civil effect because as a state, I can't be party to that. That's not a reasonable fear tomorrow or next week, but is it a reasonable fear in 5 years?
No.
Okay, fair enough.
No. In fact, I think that there are a couple of things at play here. One is the sanctity of the sanctuary. We're talking about clergy operating on their own tax-exempt turf. But there are also implications, I think, that are recognized and addressed in Senate Bill 1 concerning public accommodations, which says your sanctuary is your sanctuary. It's tax-exempt. But if you have a for-profit adjoining structure where parties are held and you get money for it, you cannot discriminate because it's a public facility, essentially. You cannot discriminate from allowing Jews, allowing same-sex couples to access those facilities that are otherwise available and accessible for a fee by other members of the community.
Okay, members, any other questions? Okay, seeing none. Next testifier, please.
Aloha.
Oh, no.
I'm number 3742. My name is Reverend Carrie Grogan. I'm a pastor of Christ Church Uniting Disciples and Presbyterians in Kailua. Why rush this? It's causing division. Wait. God's word is clear. It's not natural. It's immoral. These are things that were all said by good Christian folk in response to the Civil Rights Act, in response to dismantling Jim Crow laws, in response to allowing women the right to vote, and in response to slavery. I stand here as a Christian, as a clergy, as an ordained minister, strongly in favor of SB1. In spite of the religious testimony flooding these chambers, worth at least a month of Sundays for you all, I'm sure, the Marriage Equality Act is not a religious issue. It is an issue of civil rights. It is a justice issue. To extend civil rights to a minority group does not detract from the rights, religious or otherwise, of the majority. Let the people decide is also a common refrain. If we allowed the people to decide, our nation would still be run by a slavery economy, women wouldn't have the right to vote, and the South would still be legally segregated. Based on the prevailing arguments we've heard on SB1, interracial marriage would be illegal. As a pastor, I have the religious freedom to marry or to not marry anyone based on my own religious beliefs and values. For example, I know colleagues who say, I choose not to marry a couple who have been cohabitating. Martin Luther King Jr. reminds us that the arc of the moral universe is long, but it bends toward justice. Please stand on the side of justice.
Thank you so much. Next up, please.
Hello, my name is Keola McLose. My number is 3716. I'm a 15-year-old of Waipawa High School. What is love? What is marriage? God ordained love. God created love. God is love. God created marriage.
I'm sorry. Please stop the clock for a second. I'm sorry, you're 3716?
Yes.
Because I have Deborah Yako.
Oh, yes, that's my mother. She signed up for me because
Okay.
I'm a minor.
Okay, thank you. Continue.
Okay. Let me continue. What is love? God ordained love. He created marriage in Genesis 2, verse 24. This is why man should leave his father and mother and be united with his wife. This is not man and man. It's not woman and woman. This is man and woman. And when we try to play with what God created, this is when God steps in. And this is when he tells you that you need to respect what I created. Can you guys please look at me? Because I feel like you guys aren't paying attention. Yes, sorry. Thank you. And when you start playing with that, he starts to tell you. Let me give you an image. You have a key and you have a knob. The key goes into the knob, but it can't go in by itself. The person, think of it as God, he puts the key in the knob. A knob can't fit in the knob. A key can't fit in the key. See, there's two different things, just like man and woman. Woman was taken from the rib of man so that they may be united once again and fill the holes that they have. Please, this bill does not need to be rushed. If you notice, everyone out here, we tell you, past testimonies. This is too short of a time. If you notice, all of this controversy between the two sides, there's so much problems that we don't even know, that we haven't discovered. So please, don't rush this. Thank you, guys. Let the people decide. I love you guys. God bless.
Thank you very much. Next testifier, please.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Mary Jane Andrus. I'm number 3728. I come to you as a mother, as a citizen of Hawaii. I believe that marriage should be between a man and a woman, as ordained by God. I am opposed to SB1. I oppose, primarily, the way it was introduced is just totally scandalous. The bill was not communicated or deliberated in good faith. It doesn't guarantee or preserve my First Amendment, namely my freedom of religion and speech. Consider the matter of the Parkers and Worthlands in Massachusetts. These families filed for civil rights lawsuit to force schools to notify parents and allow them to opt their elementary school children, when homosexual-related subjects were taught. The judges ruled that because same-sex marriage is legal in Massachusetts, the school had a duty to educate and no obligation to notify parents or let them opt out their children. In the same state, an employee was fired for mentioning his belief to another employee. His employer deemed his comment inappropriate because same-sex marriage is legal in Massachusetts. Have we considered the consequences regarding health issues? I believe that homosexuality is a choice. Don't label me as a hater. I know and I love people who are in gay and lesbian relationships. President Lincoln said in the speech, "Don't interfere with anything in the Constitution. That must be maintained, for it is the only safeguard of our liberties." And not to Democrats alone do I make this appeal, but to those who love these great and true principles. We've heard everyone's testimony, as big and controversial as it is.
Thank you very much. Next, please.
I urge you, as our elected officials, to
sorry.
listen and consider all things. Thank you.
Thank you.
My name is Ralph Yasuhara. My number is 3794, and I'm opposed to SB1. First of all, I'd like to thank you for taking the time to hear all of us who want to speak on SB1. I agree with you that everyone who wants to testify should be heard. Thank you for not limiting our testimonies like our opinions do not matter. Secondly, last night, former Judge Elwin Ahu was asked if the First Amendment rights trumps SB language. He said, yes, the First Amendment rights should overshadow SB1. However, he also said that ambiguities in SB1 will have to be resolved in court, and that any far-reaching legislation like SB1 should have as few ambiguities as possible. Many testifiers are expressing a fear of loss of their First Amendment protections because of ambiguities in SB1. If SB1 is passed, infractions will be brought to the Civil Rights Commission, whose primary mission is to determine whether or not discrimination has occurred, as opposed to be concerned about the First Amendment rights of participants. Lastly, perhaps this special session is not the best venue to discuss this issue, given the short duration and the inability of your legislatures to properly vet and amend the bill. Because of the ambiguities in SB1, I urge you to vote no on SB1 and move this discussion to the regular session, which was just a few weeks away in January. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much. Next, please.
Hi, my name is Mandy Finley. My number is 3651, and I stand in strong support of SB1. I stand here today in strong support of this legislation, not in spite of a religious liberty, but because of it. I think it's telling that almost every member of the opposition that has testified here today has invoked the name of God or the Bible, and religious liberty most of all, as a reason why I should not have the opportunity and the equal right to marry my incredible girlfriend. In doing so, the opposition is ignoring not only my gay Christian friends, who should also have the same right a free exercise of their religion to marry the person of their choosing in their church that loves and accepts them. But it also ignores that the very provision of the Constitution, the First Amendment, that guarantees the freedom of religion also guarantees the freedom from religion. I'm a gay person. I'm also not religious. And I think it is absolutely ridiculous that my marriage to my incredible girlfriend, the rights and the protections afforded to our future children will be in any way defined, determined, or dictated by a religion that I am not even a part of. I stand before you today unequal under the law. And in 1998, the people did decide in Hawaii. The people decided that is your job to fix that. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next testifier, please.
Good afternoon. My name is Marty Tao. My number is 3773. Thank you for this opportunity to testify against SB1. Good afternoon, Chair Rhodes and Vice Chair Haar and Johansson. I oppose this bill because it needs to be properly vetted in the appropriate committees, such as Education, Health, and Human Services. Because this bill has such devastating, far-reaching effects, it should not be confined to only 2 committees in 5 days. This is akin to forcing you to make a critical personal decision in your life in 5 minutes. This tells me that regulation and money are considered to be more valuable to you than the education and mental health and physical health of our keiki. What is the cost to repair the psyche of a child? She learns in school that man-to-man sex is normal, but comes home to learn from her parents that it is not. What is learned at school must be unlearned at home, and the result is confusion, chaos, and self-doubt. This bill is too narrow. It does not protect the keiki. It usurps parental rights, and there's no religious freedom or no individual freedoms. And I ask that you kill this bill and create a new one that protects both sides. Representative Haar requested from Senator Schott's office to introduce federal legislation to protect federal benefits for same-sex couples. And also, Judge Elwin Ahu said that you must create a bill that would put in as much predictability in the bill as possible to prevent unnecessary litigation. And I ask you to do this for the children of Hawaii. I submit that every bill that comes before you in 2014 and beyond will pale in comparison to the havoc that HB1 will have on the state of Hawaii. And you remember September 11th, 2011, the day that America lost its innocence, the destruction of the World Trade Centers forever etched in our minds. It was a turning point in U.S. history, and we can never go back. It affects every aspect of the society, and if you pass this bill, this will be Hawaii's 9/11.
Next, please.
Hello, my name is Alex, and I am number 3608. Thank you, Honorable Chair Rhodes and representatives. Thank you so much for your time. I know it's been a long 2.5 days, but you have endured. I hope that you guys continue to endure. I come from the leeward side of Oahu. From my pahu, I have a beautiful wife and an amazing son, 5 months old. And I'm learning a lot in my marriage after 2 years. And being a father, a new father that takes so much work to plan ahead for my future and their future. And I cannot rush the decisions I do and make. That's why I want to encourage you guys. Let's not rush into this. We need some time. We heard the testimonies yesterday, 2 days ago, today, that there's still unanswered questions. You know, we gotta make some more decisions. We gotta create predictability. I know Representative Bob McDermott still trying to figure out that question with his curriculum, you know, with Dick and Jane. I don't know who answered that yet. But, you know, we got to do impact studies. Take a look. Let's look with the end in mind, 10, 20 years down the road. What does it look like? We got to take a look at these issues, all the unanswered questions. There's a lot. Let's put it at the table and figure it out. I want to thank you guys so much for your time. You guys are great leaders. I believe in the leaders of Hawaii. And you guys are great, so thank you so much for allowing this opportunity, all the people to testify. I want to encourage you guys to endure everything that you're doing. You know, keep taking that caffeine in, whatever, Starbucks, if you like that. But I want to tell you guys are doing a great job. Keep it up. Keep up the good work. And I'm hoping and I'm praying that you guys will endure and make the best decision by the end of the day. Thank you guys so much. Have a great day. Aloha.
Thank you very much. Let me just interrupt the testifiers for an announcement. If you are in group 3,801 to 4,000, you can check in now. Again, that's 3,801 to 4,000. Go ahead and check in. We're just about to finish up with this group. Okay, please.
Good afternoon, Chair and committee members. Thank you for the opportunity to testify. My number is 3732. My name is Elaine Brown, and I strongly oppose SB1. A little bit about myself. Born and raised on Oahu. Our family line span 5 generations on Oahu. I have my master's in resource economics. I was a land manager for Kamehameha Bishop Estate, and I worked for the state for 21 years in 5 state agencies. The reason why I tell you this is I want to tell you about the process that we go through, both in the private sector and in the state as a state employee. When we do planning and development on land, which has evolved over the years because community are so passionate of having input on how our land is developed. And as legislators, you know this process. I'm saying this for the benefit of the people here to hear. It takes anywhere from 10 to 25 years to plan something out, and it costs millions of dollars. We do this in the private sector, and we do this in the state. We fly consultants and staff to the neighbor islands to get their opinion and input. We conduct night meetings, and we pay for it so that the people can come after dinner to give input. And when we prepare for these meetings, we have technical committees drawing up development plans and drawings. We provide handouts to the people in the room so they could look at it and comment on it. And prior to all this development of documents, we have hundreds of names listed, and we have the consultant and staff go to the people in their office, in their environment, and we talk story to them. We go through this long, painful process because it is important to really get input, not theoretical ideas. And comparing it to this process here where 2 people get 2 minutes to testify for people that we don't even know that give reports.
Thank you very much.
It's not
Next
the same.
testifier, please.
Thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Susan Arnett. My testifying number is 3783. Thank you for the opportunity to testify. I'm here as an individual. I was raised in Hawaii, attended elementary, intermediate school. I'm a proud graduate of Kalani High School and the University of Hawaii, and I received my law degree from the Catholic University of America. I'm here to testify in support of SB1. I'm also a proud member of the board of the Japanese American Citizens League and a member of the NAACP. This is an issue of civil rights. I'm disappointed over the last few days of listening to testimony that there are members of churches who believe that only their faith should rule. What about the members of other faiths? What, for example, about Buddhists, the Hong Pahang Manji, who is here testifying in support of the bill? There are people who believe that only their view of Christianity should rule. What about the other Christian faiths, the Episcopal Church and others who have supported SB1? This is not about religion. It is an issue of civil rights. It, to me, is akin to the times when there were laws against interracial marriage, and those laws were struck down. It is akin to when segregated schools were struck down. The majority in various states where those things happened were opposed to it, and that is why the majority does not rule in issues of civil rights. I'm not sure what the majority position is here. I've seen polls on television prior to the session that indicated a majority of Hawaii citizens were in favor of same-sex marriage. So I question those who claim the majority is clear. But this is not an issue where the majority gets to decide. The majority doesn't get to say, have your separate but equal schools, you can't come to ours. Have what we deem for you is equivalent to marriage, your civil unions, you can't have our marriage. This is an issue of civil rights. All must be treated equally and allowed to marry. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Next testifier, please.
My number is 3616.
And my number is 3700. My name is Lani Kohatsu.
And my name is Kirsten Kohatsu. I am against same-sex marriage. I learned that same-sex marriage is wrong. Just by seeing two people of the same sex holding hands the way my mom and dad hold hands, I knew that was wrong. I don't want to learn it is right in school. Please don't force me to learn about it the same way I have to learn math or science. I am against same-sex marriage. HB 6 for the 5. Thank you.
Thank you.
So in the days leading up and the hours and minutes leading up to today, I fought 3 restless, tired, grumpy kids, trying to keep them here. Fearing that, number one, I wouldn't turn them away from my stance, that I wouldn't turn them off, period, by what I have to bring them through and what they have to sit through in this. I'm opposed to SB1. I've heard a lot of different testimonies, and what stuck was the teachers. There was a time when I sat next to a principal who cried her heart out, fearing for the students of her school. As a mom, being in the right place at the right time, hearing these educators share of their fears of the students of their school, made me think, fussy kids, hours and hours, it's well worth it. Learned a lot lately. I learned that my mom, that my sisters, was way more interested in what you folks do than I knew. I learned that I am, my kids are, and my husband is way more interested in what you folks do here than I knew before this week. I know this much. Representative Chris Lee, brother Chris, I voted for you. I know this much. I will not vote for you again. A lot of friends and families have read my heart on social media, and it hasn't been easy to stand behind my belief and my value, but I chose anyway. One of the educators talked about the GLOs, of how the education system in Hawaii pushes our kids to become effective users of technology, good communicators, in order to direct them with the information that they have to make up their own decisions. And by the testimonies before, I hear and I am afraid, and I ain't willing to throw my dice in of my kids on this one. I ain't willing to sit back and see if it's true or not. There's a lot of fears as a parent for me if I'm doing the right thing. But I know this much. Not coming, not speaking on behalf of my kids is definitely not right. So please, again, vote down this bill, whatever everybody else hybolically was telling you guys that you guys understand to do, please do it. And if not, please know, like everybody else been telling you guys, we all came and went out on a limb, and we'll never forget what we went through if you guys pass this bill, and you guys won't be voted.
Thank you very
Aloha.
much. Okay, members, at this point, we're going to, if you have any questions for the last group of testifiers. Seeing none, let's go on to the next testifier. Please come forward.
Hello, my name is Danielle Smith. I'm number 3723. I'm asking you to vote in opposition of this bill. On a personal level, I work at a school that is run by a church. Already it's been an issue here in Hawaii that many people do not want churches to be considered tax exempt or given special benefits for being a place of worship. Now, my concern is that this will necessarily affect every crucial aspect of my life, my ability to worship, teach, and parent as I choose, however I choose. It is in jeopardy. My free expression might soon come under attack by law. I and my friends and colleagues have been around the Capitol a lot lately, weekly, getting involved in the process for the first time against our own expectations since we became aware of this bill, hoping to show you, our legislators, how we strongly feel as the youth vote, as the game changers. We were dealing with this for the first time since we weren't voting in 1998, that there is diversity in the opposition side, that there has still been more to discuss. I have loved how powerfully the people in Hawaii these past few days have made it so undeniably clear, that very sentiment, that we feel best represented in this issue by representing ourselves. The past few days I've been listening to very strong, very valid feelings on both sides, feelings of hurt. While talking with your representatives, what usually came up from you was the issue of fairness. You want to treat a minority group with respect, and I really appreciate that. But you don't have to decide what will be the right side of history. You don't have to believe in the divine origins of marriage to understand that it's defined as it is based on observable benefits to society. Culture changes, but that is the right of the culture, not your government responsibility to mandate the change. Thank you so much for caring about even the very small minorities, but I ask you to treat the religious minority with respect as well. Please do not replace the rights of people to worship as they choose for what is a semantical benefit.
Thank you very much. Next testifier, please.
Thank you.
Aloha. My name is Mika Tufunga Valai. I am number, after 30 hours of waiting outside, 3780. And I just want to take the next 5 seconds to say, good luck, Red Raiders, here we go. Well, I live in Kahuku. I'm raised in Laie. I'm a member of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. I'm a scoutmaster, I'm a youth advocate, and I work as a youth counselor at a law care center in Kahuku. And I stand against the bill SB1. But there's something I'm not hearing, and I haven't heard since I've been sitting here, and I'm not sure if everybody's missing the point of this. My question is, the bill, the civil union has already been passed in 2011. The state has already done that. Isn't this a federal fight? Isn't this the problem of the federal government? Are we supposed to be fighting with the federal government instead of coming over here and testifying against each other? Shouldn't we be combining our faith and our strength to fight the federal government? Because that's who we're fighting for, aren't we? We're fighting for the rights of the gays and lesbians to be recognized by the federal government. The state has already recognized you. The state has already recognized you. We're fighting the federal government, and that's where the fight should be. I don't know why we're wasting money and time here. I know some of you want to go watch football. I want to watch football. I'm missing my JV game with that Mililani. And I have to sit here for 30 hours to come here and say this, because I've been watching and I've been listening. Isn't that the bottom line here? Isn't this a federal government problem? Why aren't we fighting the federal government instead of fighting each other? Why can't we combine our faith and our strength together as people here of Hawaii and fight for that right to be recognized? That's where the fight should be, not here. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Go Big Red.
Next testifier of whatever football persuasion.
Good afternoon. My name is Mary So, and my number is 3627. Same-sex marriage, although he loves the people who are involved in, is an abomination to God. We as a society have absolutely no right to change what has already been established by God, that of a marriage between one man and one woman. We will pay for the consequences if SB1 becomes law here. Who are we to think that we can change what God has already designed without any consequences? God will not be mocked. Committee members, you are under God's authority, and as such, may you honor God by following his commands. Same-sex marriage is detested by God. Do what is porno in his eyes and vote no to SB1. The special session also dishonors God and the people who make their home here. The democratic process is being circumvented. A decision that you and your colleagues will vote on is of such great magnitude that it should not be made in the time allotted for this bill to become law. This is not porno. Registered voters who have elected people in their political offices, such as yourselves, committee members, should decide on whether same-sex marriage, a highly charged issue, should be here in our island home or not. Honor your constituents and let us decide in our upcoming election in 2014. Clergymen who are under God's authority are also being dishonored. The religious wording in SB1 should be made stronger. Make the religious wording stronger. This will be porno. King Kamehameha III honored God as he knew who his authority came from. He left a legacy of honoring God in whom his authority was given by him. Committee members, please do what is right and continue on with the legacy that has been set before you, honoring a holy God in whom your authority was given by him. Do what is porno and vote no to SB1. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next testifier, please.
My name is Patrick Kishaba. I'm a retiree from the State Department of Education. My registration number is 3686. I am in strong opposition to SB1. No matter what our sexual attraction may be, we are all equal as persons. We have the human right entitled to human respect and human dignity. However, a man and a woman has different anatomical organs. A man produces sperm containing 23 chromosomes. Woman produces an egg containing 23 chromosomes. The chromosomal pairings can only procreate a human being. It is essential that a man and a woman complement each other in order to propagate the human species, preferably through marriages. To introduce a man and a woman in the definition of marriage is discriminatory, but it is not unfair discrimination because you need both to continue the human race and to have a family and communities in society. In this case, the term to discriminate is to distinguish. As an example, an apple from an orange and should not be taken with a negative connotation. I believe the numerous testimonies these past few days testifies to this essential complementary nature of a man and a woman in marriage. Religious beliefs endorses this complementary nature of a man and woman as essential components in marriage. Although I testify, yet I feel shortchanged. Why? The state government...
Thanks very much. Next testifier, please.
My name is Bernie Kaho'one Pasquale. My number is 3713. Aloha. First of all, let me say how strongly I oppose this special session that the governor has forced all of us into. The Senate, the House, and the thousands of people who are on both sides of this issue. The money, time, and effort that this special session is costing us, the taxpayers, is being ridiculously wasted because of the rush. The rush that the governor is pushing all of us through. Hawaii is the only state holding a special session to get this bill passed. What's the rush? Why aren't the other 30-plus states that do not permit same-sex marriages doing the same thing? Again, I ask, what's the rush? I'm sure the governor thought he'd have this wrapped up within the 4 to 5 day session. Guess we're proving him wrong, huh? Honestly, if I had the power, I'd fire him. In 1998, I voted to give the legislature the power to reserve marriage to those of the opposite sex. I thought it was a done deal, but it was missing the word only. In 2010, civil union came up, and in 2011, it finally got passed. Again, I thought, okay, that's it. We're done with hearing about this same-sex marriage thing. And here we are again. I am totally against SB1. Like many others I've heard testify before me, I have many family members and friends who are gay. And like the others, I love them with all my heart. It's so funny, though. I don't know why. I don't see any of them here testifying in favor of this bill. Isn't that so ironic? One thing I do know, the passing of this bill would not only change my life, but also the legacy I leave behind. I have 2 wonderful children.
Thank you very much. Next testifier, please.
Good afternoon. My name is Russell Watanabe. I'm number 3788. I serve as the president of the Waipahu Hawaii stake of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. Our stake boundaries include Pearl City, Waipahu, and Ewa Beach. I have responsibility for approximately 4,300 members of our faith. First of all, I want to thank you for taking the time and effort to hear our testimonies. I know that it has been a long and grueling effort. There have been both sides of the issue expressed, and thank you for hearing our testimonies. I stand against SB1 for 3 basic reasons. Number one, I don't want to say this. I'm speaking for myself as an individual and not for the members of our state. I'm opposed to SB1 for 3 basic reasons. Number one, it is against my fundamental belief that marriage is between a man and a woman, and it is part of God's eternal plan of happiness that children are entitled to be cared for by a faithful father and mother. There are serious social consequences if the time-honored principles of traditional marriage are abandoned. Secondly, I'm concerned that redefining marriage will harm children, families, and society. Both genders are equally essential to marriage. Marriage unites a man and a woman into a uniquely important partnership that is strengthened by the attributes of both genders. The traditional marriage also affirms the historical and societal value that children are central to the purpose of marriage, and that children fare best when raised by a father and mother who brought them into the world. Throughout history and in all societies, the purpose of marriage has always been to help ensure that children have a mother and a father. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Next up, please.
Honorable Chairs, Rhodes, Luke, and other representatives, hello, my name is Jared Pruitt, number 3725. I live in Mililani. I'm in vehement opposition of SB1. This bill is too broadly worded, specifically in its religious exemption language. Why is it so vague? Why doesn't SB1 include explicitly detailed definitions of words and phrases like religious organizations and for-profit? Why aren't there specific protections detailed for clergy and churches for situations other than solemnizing marriage celebrations? The language in SB1 is too broad and leaves much to be desired regarding protections due to its vagueness. It specifies an exemption and contradicts itself in the same section. This occurs, for instance, on page 6, line 12, under section 572F. I'm surprised by such oversights in a proposed bill being considered for law. For there to be any room in the bill for one to argue that a church does not use its facilities and grounds for regular religious meetings in order to force it to perform a same-sex marriage under public accommodations under the PA law is wrong. This is what has happened in other places, and it will happen here if this poorly written bill passes. All other states that pass same-sex marriage ensure that their churches and religious organizations were protected. Why isn't Hawaii seeking to do the same thing? What SB1 attempts to do, HB 6, sections 4 and 5 does adequately. It lays out specific exemptions and definitions for those whose sincerely held religious beliefs would be violated, whether they're a business organization or an individual. HB 6 is better equipped to protect First Amendment rights. I feel like our government, you the representatives, have the duty to listen to the people, and I feel we're not being heard. Will you do the same as the Senate did? They were presented with an overwhelming opposition and still voted yes to pass SB1. Show we the people that you haven't forgotten your duty to truly represent us in the government. We the voters are going to remember what happens here come election time next year. Examine your hearts. Are you making your decision based on personal bias or incentive, or are you making it based on what your constituents desire? Bear in mind, we will not forget. We will not forget who votes yes and no on this bill. We will not forget if you ignore the voice of the people you say you represent. We will not forget. Please kill the bill and honor the democratic process you serve and are supposed to protect. I and the 1,479 Hawaiian residents who signed this petition all encourage you to
Next,
vote no.
please.
Thank you.
Good day, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Shelby Pruitt, and I am strongly opposed to SB1 and in favor of HB 6, particularly sections 4 and 5. My number is 3720, and I'm here to read a letter from my students who are closely observing the democratic process in action. Dear elected servants of the people, we are the concerned 7th grade class of Pearl Harbor Christian Academy. Can you honestly say that you are giving us the rights we deserve by ignoring our freedom of speech? The reason you are elected to your position is because we thought you would be the people who could represent our voice. Laws are made not just for the present generation, but for future generations too. We are concerned about the impact that the legalizing of same-sex marriage is going to have on our churches and schools. We are asking you to remember your childhood and the importance of having both a mom and a dad in your life. We are asking you to consider what will happen to those of us who still believe that marriage is between one man and one woman. We think that this could make it very difficult for children who have heterosexual parents. Will we start to feel bullied? The normal will become abnormal. We are asking you to be willing to defend our values too. Consider how this looks from the outside perspective. Thousands of Hawaii citizens have voiced opposition to this bill, yet it continues to move forward. By saying that same-sex marriage is normal and okay, you are forcing us to believe something that we know is not correct. It reminds us of the propaganda behind drugs when they try to convince you that it is good for you to take them, though it is hurting you the whole time. We are confused about how the passing of this bill would support the separation of church and state if the government forces churches to have same-sex marriage ceremonies performed on their property. We are concerned about having to learn about same-sex marriage in our classes if it goes against our personal convictions. Will we be accused of discrimination if we voice our disapproval? We are a young group of voices exercising our freedoms and rights. You are faced with a monumental decision. Make a decision that you can be proud of when you look back upon your life. Please consider this heartfelt letter that was written respectfully by a class of 7th graders, and they signed it. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay, members, any questions for this last group of testifiers? Representative Thielen.
Is this on? Yes. Mr. Russell Watanabe, or is it on? Let me try. Is this better? Yeah? Thank you. Mr. Watanabe, I was wondering if you could tell me, you're a deacon within the Mormon Church, or I'm sorry, I didn't get the title.
I serve as the president of the stake,
Okay.
the Waipahu stake. The way our church is organized, the local congregation is a ward, and a number of wards in an area make up a stake. In our stake, we have 10 wards.
Okay, thank you. I was wondering, I haven't heard, what is the Mormon Church's position on this bill?
Well, consistent with the doctrine of our faith, we believe that traditional marriage is ordained of God. We believe that the family is central to God's plan of happiness, and that children are a great blessing and responsibility, and that the purpose of marriage, one of the central purposes of marriage, is to provide for the safety and the benefit of our children.
I haven't received anything from the head of the Mormon Church similar to what I've received from the head of the Catholic Church. And that's why I was asking, how is the church conveying its position to us?
Well, the church teaches us correct doctrine, and they ask us to exercise our own conscience and our own belief as individual citizens. Okay. We're not directed to speak for the church, but we understand the doctrine and our beliefs, and we have the agency to voluntarily express this publicly as I am doing today.
Okay, so the church itself is not coming forth with an official position similar to the head of the Catholic Church.
The church has not directed us to make official positions.
Okay.
Again, we have, we can exercise our freedom of speech as individual members,
Okay.
and that's what I'm doing today.
And then I just have, and thank you for being here today. I had one other question because, and maybe you've given us this information before, I don't know. How does the Mormon Church deal with gay members or lesbian members within its church, or what happens there?
Thank you. We consider all children, all people as children of God, as our brothers and sisters. The foundational doctrine is that of love and acceptance. Our basic belief is that just as with heterosexual sins or transgressions, temptation or thoughts alone do not comprise sin or transgression. It's when we act upon these that then they become in conflict with the teachings of the church and the gospel. And so we accept all. We love them. We extend to them our love. But just as a heterosexual person would come under the discipline of the church for breaking commandments regarding heterosexual behavior, the same standard would apply to homosexual behavior. But the doctrine is we love and we accept all.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Chair.
Members, any other questions?
Chair.
Representative Ward.
Thank you, Chair. Is Mike from Kahuku here? Did Mike go? He went to the football game. Does everybody know who won the game between Utah and UH? 47-10. I just want to know if he knew. He's not here, so I'm not going to ask.
Okay.
Thank you.
Members, any other questions? Okay, seeing none, let's go ahead and move on to the next testifier. Please come forward, whoever's next. We need a testifier. I don't believe it's over yet. Oh, okay, sorry. I'll quit harassing you then.
First of all, I want you to know that this is my first day in a wheelchair, and it's a temporary thing, so I don't want a lot of sympathy.
I'm glad to hear that. Please proceed.
First, I'm humbled to be here among wonderful voters that are here for this week. I think you'll agree. My name is Toby Rushforth, and I oppose Senate Bill 1 and this special session. This issue is less about social justice.
Can you just tell us your number, too? I'm sorry.
Much more about
Excuse me a second.
has hijacked the state.
Excuse me. Can you just tell us your number, too?
What's that?
Could you just tell us your number as well?
3947.
Thank you. Please proceed. Proceed.
Can I start over?
We'll give you, yeah, start over.
Okay. I am humbled to be here. My name is Toby Rushforth, and that is my number. This issue is less about social justice and equal rights and much more about how the governor has hijacked the state constitution and is now, along with a complicit legislature, also in the process of rendering the voters irrelevant. The House leadership and a large number of legislators have committed to their vote in writing many weeks ago. Not a comma in Senate Bill 1 changed after 1,800 voters testified for the Senate last Monday. And I don't think any changed when you took your first vote either. All that in mind, I offer the following words on the content of the bill. On power. The same power seized by the governor for this special session can now be used to define marriage in any way he and the legislator want. Anytime they want. Why not polygamy? Use your imagination on the rest. Family. Since the family court will have jurisdiction over all SB1 relationships, all relationships are now family. Marriage of minors. 15 and 16-year-old children can be legally married as long as the family court of the circuit approves. No mention of parents or other adults have anything to do with it, apparently. All this is subject to Section 572-2 of Senate Bill 1, which does not exist in the bill. I'm deeply troubled that you all don't seem to know that. The Department of Health rules. SB1 says the Governor's Department of Health may, at its discretion, make any changes it deems necessary to aid in implementation of this act. So, Senate Bill 1 will be the law of the land, but no one will know what that means until the Governor's Department of Health gets through messing with it. I call this the Senate Bill 1 Hail Mary pass. In closing, I am deeply embarrassed by the system of governance that allows you as our
Thank you very much.
representatives to
Next
conduct
testifier,
this special
please.
session. Am I done?
Yes, thank you.
Okay. Thank you.
Next testifier, please.
My name is Gerald Mahuse. I'm a disabled veteran. I am number 3950, and I strongly oppose this bill. I oppose it for 3 reasons. The first is on page 13 of the Senate bill, line 11 through 14. The legislature believes that certain rights and benefits presently available only to married couples should be made available to couples comprised of 2 individuals who are legally prohibited from marrying one another. Does that mean that we're going to start allowing legal benefits to people who are illegally and prohibited by the government from marrying each other? That's wrong, fundamentally wrong. And the second thing is, I'm glad that there is an inseverability clause, because according to the inseverability clause, it states that any provision of this act or application thereof to any person or circumstance is held invalid. The invalidity does not affect other provisions of this application. Well, you know what? To me, as a person, the same-sex marriage in itself contained in this bill is inseverable, and I would like for it to be taken out. That is my belief. The third is, I hold small groups in my house. By definition, in 2 Timothy chapter 4, verse 1 through 2 of the Bible, that declares me as a clergy, a member of the clergy. So I should be able to receive the same rights, even if I have my own business. If I have my own business in the same place that I am also represented as a clergyman, does that mean to say that I lose my right in my own home? Okay? So I would just like to receive clarification. This bill is just going too fast. We've had a lot of questions here. I mean, even Representative Oshiro said that the majority imposes its will on the minority. Well, that's incorrect. If one person who is believing in incest can receive marriage benefits.
Thank you very much. Next testifier, please.
Thank you.
Thank you.
My number is 3960. My name is Carlina McHugh. I am extremely nervous, so please forgive me. I live in YPO Gentry. I'm asking that you all please vote no to SB1. There's no reason to vote on such a volatile issue in this special session. There was no real reason to hold a special session. The democratic process is being circumvented. I pray, I beg, I've been put in a position by my government to beg that you let it be vetted properly in a regular session, that you put it to the people to vote, that you uphold the Constitution. Religious freedoms and First Amendment rights are being placed in jeopardy by so many different things in this bill. Civil unions could have the ability to protect and to give the right to same-gender couples. Please let the people decide. I come as a citizen of this United States. I come as a resident of Hawaii, and I come representing 7 people who couldn't be here today, that I care for, that I live with, that wanted to be here and express their opinion also. I thank you for your patience, and I thank you for your attention, and I thank you for your time, and I thank you for allowing the proper process to go through and letting everyone speak their opinion. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Next, please.
Aloha mai kauko. My name is May Keaolani Lavi Marodi. I am number 3956. I am a descendant of Keawi Keokikai Ali'iokamoku. King Kamehameha I is the 3rd generation of Keawi Keokikai Ali'iokamoku. I am a Kanaka Maoli. I am a Keikioka Aina. I am an indigenous people, and I am a minority. But more than anything, I am the daughter of the King of Kings and Lord of Lords. My koko, my blood, comes from Jesus Christ. My people waited 100+ years, and they're still waiting to be recognized as sovereign people. When I was a young girl, my tutu lady and my mother would go hide in the room, and they would speak their language. At that time, we were forbidden to speak our language, and they were afraid that they would be arrested. I couldn't understand that as a child, how my voice was silenced, and how I wasn't able to speak my language or even learn my language. So we, as a people, were silenced. Today I come before you, and the people of Hawaii is speaking to you. Please do not silence their voice again. I plead the blood of Jesus over your decision. And I ask, may the good Lord bless you while you are making your decision, every one of you. I say to the gay community, we do love you. We do, really, really do. So I come before you, and if we did anything against you, I ask for your forgiveness. May the good Lord bless all of us. In Christ Jesus' name, amen.
Thank you very much. Next testifier.
Aloha. My name is Tony Hopkins. My number is 3953. Dear Chair Rhodes and Luke and committee members, I strongly oppose, and I strongly oppose this special session. Sorry, I forgot to say strongly oppose SB1. I am a mother and a grandmother, and I believe in traditional marriage. Under the eyes of God, marriage is ordained of God and is between a man and a woman. I was here on Monday and witnessed an overwhelming opposition to SB1. I saw thousands waving signs in support of traditional marriage and let the people decide. I was so proud to be a part of this political process and to be able to show others what I truly believe in. But I was so hurt and so disappointed with the decision that was made by the Senate that night. The vote was 5-2 in favor of SB1? Did they listen to the people? Did they see us? I think not. Thursday and Friday was another overwhelming opposition to SB1. I kept a tally of both days. And I wanted to show you my tally. I kept a tally of both days. Thursday was 42 to 65, 165 against. Friday was 39-4 and 140 against. It may not be accurate, but as you can see, the majority says, we're against SB1. I ask all of you to please listen to the people. I feel holding this special session is a waste of time. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next, please.
I am Mary Lou Brogan. I'm number 3980. Been waiting a long time. Chairs Rhodes and Luke and committee, I vote no to SB1. It's very obvious that our citizens are upset and want to take part in this decision, as evidenced by the thousands and thousands of people here at the Capitol citing the pros and cons of this bill. It is something that legislators like you should view with great concern and alarm. This hurried-up bill, initiated by the governor, is being rammed down our throats and yours too. I've tried to figure out why the governor is pressuring us to pass this bill. And lo and behold, the dawn broke. He is doing it for at least 3 reasons. A tax break for gays by December 31st. That means money. An expectation of big revenues when the gays arrive on our shores. That means money. And just plain pride, wanting to be the 15th state to have same-sex marriage. He has long ago forgotten us and our wishes. We citizens are pretty smart too. After all, we elected you as our statesman. We are still trying to recover from the shame of another bloody stain which covered our state in 1971, over 40 years ago, when the governor and legislature passed the first liberalized abortion law in Hawaii. There have been 55 million aborted babies and counting in the U.S. since that date.
Thank you very much. Next testifier, please.
No to SB1.
Thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Allison Pasqua, number 3929. I've been here for 3 days, so I am so excited to finally be able to talk here. But all my points have been made, so I've pretty much thrown out my original testimony. And now I just want to say that I oppose this special session and SB1 for many points that have already been made. But what we've seen over the last few days, or what I've witnessed sitting here in the audience, is some super intelligent testimonies. On both sides, really. Actually, I've grown only more compassionate for those that approve this bill. We've seen the judges and lawyers here that have talked about the public accommodations and individual religious protections. We've seen the teachers talking about the Common Core standards, their classrooms, health education. We've seen the scientists, man, those have been some amazing ones, like yesterday from UH, talking about the nature versus nurture and genetics and stuff that is well beyond my comprehension. We've seen pastors, some fabulous pastors on all sides, including my own, talking about participating in theological debates and explaining religious exemptions that they desire to be more fully expanded here. We've seen Native Hawaiians, like that just spoke earlier, discussing beneficiary rights. In other words, we've seen a lot of passionate, knowledgeable, intelligent, emotional testimonies, and even on the other side, on those approving and supporting this bill that have brought me to tears when I hear that the lady yesterday that couldn't be there for her dying partner's deathbed wishes, that is heartbreaking. But in these days, I've seen that voters want the opportunity to vote on this bill. I've seen that there's opposition and that there is room for improvement in this bill, and that is why I ask that we have it revised and brought to the people for a vote. Mahalo, and thank you for your time.
Thank you very much. Next testifier, please.
Hi, my name's Makana Zapata. I am 3958. I'm against this same-sex marriage bill. One reason is it will take our rights to speak up and say you can't get married in a building like a church. Two, it'll put our state in more debt than we already are in. Three, it will, this bill does not have real protection for it. Speak up, let our people vote, and on the need
Is there someone that can help?
and our
Yeah. Can we start again for him? Is that possible? My name is Makana Zapata. I am a voting member who lives in Wanalua Valley. I am against same-sex marriage because it will destroy the state of Hawaii. It will take away our citizen rights. I will put Hawaii more into debt. This bill does not have real protection for its citizens. We won't be able to speak up or let our opinions be known. Please put this item on the next ballot and let your people vote on this issue. Genesis 2:23, and Adam said, This is now bone of my bones and flesh of my flesh. She shall be called woman because she was taken out of man.
Thank you very much. Next testifier, please.
Good afternoon, members of the committee and Chairman Luke and Rhodes. My name is Willard Keligna Samfong Sr., number 3946. You don't have testimony in front of you because when mine was submitted, it didn't go through. So I had to come here and get a number. Before I begin, I just want to read this because in writing my testimony, my wife had to caution me, stop pounding the computer so hard. Your anger is showing, and whatever emotions you have is showing. So I want to read this. See that ye are not lifted up unto pride. Yea, see that ye do not boast in your own wisdom, nor of your much strength. Use boldness, but not overbearance. And also see that ye bridle all your passions, that ye may be filled with love. See that you refrain from idleness. To say that this issue does not bring out passion and much emotion doesn't come close to describing what this issue is all about. I have a testimony that describes everything that has gone on before. All the flaws, that's incorrect. Some of the flaws. Listening to the testimonies today opened up my eyes to more flaws. I wish to emphatically, vehemently object and do not support this bill, SB1. Not on these grounds as they are said, but because in what I believe in is that marriage is constituted and mandated by God, one man and one woman. Some of the questions that are asked some of the other witnesses in saying, oh, when was this instituted? When was morality instituted? It was instituted at the very beginning. It was written at the very beginning. Morality, one man and one woman. I'm sorry, I'm shouting.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Next testifier, please.
Aloha. My name is Jocelyn McMahon. My number is 3928. Honorable Chair Rhodes, Luke, and members of the committees, I'm opposed to SB1. I'm a local born and raised resident of Hawaii. I raised a family here. I own a business, and I'm a pastor of a local church. SB1 is called that it's relating to equality, and I feel that this bill does not represent equality for all. In fact, the bill will deny my rights to uphold my traditions, my cultural values, in order to give a new group their rights. Now, we actually feel that if we are to have equality, then it should be on both sides of the coin. And we've seen in the last week all of the opposition to this. It's because we're not really clear on the language in the bill. So I ask that before we pass this through, that we really do it due diligence, because if I couldn't even understand when the Attorney General was being questioned, he could not answer a lot of questions and then said, it's left to the courts. It will be left to the courts, which means that this may then be a court issue, all of the things that we're concerned about, and that we will be caught up in litigation and cause more problems in where we stand now. So I ask that you consider the language and make it truly an equality for all for the people of Hawaii. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next, please.
My name is Marcy Nakamura, and I'm number 3826. Thank you for allowing me to come and speak and give my views and opinion on this. This is something that I feel strongly against, and I stand before you in opposition of SB1. You know, I'm really out of my comfort zone right now because I've never done this before. But as a lot of people have come forward, you know, this is very, very important to them, to their families, and to the future generation. I'm a half Native American from Washington State, and I've been in Hawaii for about 34 years. You know, I've been hearing a lot about the people of Hawaii, their culture, and how they've been robbed of, you know, their rights as people. And I know that they're fighting for the same thing that I have right now as a Native American. But there's just a few things that I'd like to say. And, you know, as I was watching the thousands of testimonies on Thursday, I heard the overwhelming cries of the people of Hawaii opposing this bill. There were many questions asked, but the answers provided by Attorney General Louie were unclear and unknown. With so much uncertainty, how could you even consider this bill? Yesterday, Governor Abercrombie stood in front of the news camera and said, "Numbers don't matter to me." I am disturbed and appalled that our governor openly stated these testimonies made by thousands to be heard who oppose this bill don't matter. You know, 20 years ago, I was in a small claims court because I purchased something from a business, they advertise. Oh my gosh.
Thank you very much. Next, please.
I'm a citizen of the United States of America. I'm a resident of Hawaii. My name is Colette Steele, and my number is 3893. I'm going to try to talk about things that I know and not what I don't. I have 10 children. 6 of them are my birth children, and 4 of them are adopted from Russia with various different ethnicity. My family is diverse also. We have family that are Buddhist, that are my children's cousins that we love dearly. My sister-in-law is from Iran, and her family is Muslim. We have very good friends who are Jewish, who we celebrate Hanukkah and Christmas with. And I don't have a whole lot of close friends or family who are atheists, but I'm sure there are good atheists out there too that I would be good friends with if I knew them. Also in our family, we have members who are attracted to members of the same sex. My sister-in-law's father died of AIDS. He was beloved in our family. We were there the day before he died at his hospital bed with my children. I have family right now who live in lesbian relationships. I've been so frustrated I've been here 4 full days from open to close. And I realized last night, and as I was driving here today, I actually cried the whole way here. I live an hour and 20 minutes away from here. I realized why I've been frustrated. I thought it was over the issues, but it's really because I don't trust my government. I don't feel like you have my back. I think a lot of people feel the same way.
Thank you very much. Next testifier, please.
Aloha, my number is 3966. My name is Christmas Napua Kahawai Ola'a, and I am a native Hawaiian. I strongly oppose SB1 on the same-sex marriage because I believe that marriage is between a man and a woman. I am for traditional marriage. Same-sex marriage should not be passed in a special session because a 6-day special session is not enough time to discuss the most controversial issue of our time. As we've sat and listened to all the discussions that's gone on in the last 3-4 days, it's clear to me that there's not understanding about the amendment. It's not clear, it's flawed. There's a lot of flaws in it. And we need to clean that up prior to passing this bill. It needs to be definite and in place before the bill is passed. The 6-day special session doesn't allow the House of Representatives to make amendments to the legislation. Hawaii is the only state rushing into special session as a result of Supreme Court decision. If the need was so truly dire, then why haven't the other 34 states that do not permit same-sex marriage do what we're doing? A yes vote during special session is a no vote to democracy. The people believe that in 1998, they voted for this same-sex marriage as a no. And in 1998, and I can be wrong, and you can correct me, but in 1998, the amendment read, I don't know the direct words, but something about the same-sex marriage. Do we uphold it? And if we do, then underneath that line, added to that was that the legislature would have the opportunity to vote if this comes back. And the people said no,
thank you very
so
much.
listen to the people.
Aloha, my name is Liz Larson, and I'm number 3951. I oppose SB1. I want to make 2 points. First, the people don't want state-sanctioned same-sex marriage. 2, there is a solution that would answer concerns on both sides of the argument. My written testimony states that the religious exemption is too weak and must be amended. However, since listening to public testimony these past few days, this is what I think of my written testimony and the bill. Kill the bill. We cannot salvage it. None of the technicalities matter because the voice of the people has been quite clear. They do not want state-sanctioned same-sex marriage in the state of Hawaii. The evidence shows that the people are overwhelmingly oppose this bill and cherish marriage as a sacred and holy union between one man and one woman. Whether or not you agree with this is not your job to decide. The duty of the government is to protect the people, not run their lives. Questions have been asked about protecting the rights of the minority. These are good questions and must be examined carefully to ensure that everyone can live in Hawaii without fear of persecution. So the question I ask you is this: does stopping the state from sanctioning same-sex marriage leave the GLBT community protectionless? I would say it does not. It may make things less convenient, less financial. It may even keep them from feeling accepted for society or keep them from showing their love. The point is, we're in an impasse. I propose a solution that both sides should consider. We can separate civil unions from marriages, with civil unions under the jurisdiction of the government and the marriage under the jurisdiction of the people. Render to Caesar what Caesar, render unto God what is God's. Then put the responsibility back in the federal government to fix their mess. The term marriage is used in 2 places, in IRS tax code and Health and Human Services. Change it to civil union instead of marriage. Then in Hawaii, we can have a peaceful discussion about whether the state government should
Thank you very
regulate
much.
both marriage
Next testifier, please.
and several unions, or have them be separate. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Pastor Roy Yamamoto, and my number is 3851. I wrote a testimony,
I'm
but
sorry. Could you repeat your number? I'm sorry. Couldn't hear you.
3851.
3851.
I
Thank
feel
you.
like I'm in prison again and giving my AO number over here, but I'm an ex-inmate, and I was supposed to do life in prison, but by the grace of God, I learned the truth in prison, and God set me free. You know, being here over this past couple of days, really broke my heart just listening to just everything that was going on, and I just feel in my heart that it's a spiritual warfare, you know, in heaven that is happening here, and I do this camp called Camp Agape, and Agape is God's love, His unconditional love. And I know in my heart that God loves every single person here in this room today, every one of us, every one of us. And like the Kapuna said the other day, that there's only one person that given us breath, the breath alone of life is Him, nobody else. And I think about it, in the Bible it talks about this in Ecclesiastes 7. It says, a good is than a precious atonement, and a day of death than a day of one's birth. It is better to go to a house of mourning than a house of feasting, for the end of all men, and the living should take this to heart. And sitting here and listening to everything that we're talking and trying to push this bill to go forward, we're only looking at the things here in front of us. We're not looking at the eternal things, everybody's salvation. And I know that God wants all of us to look at the long run of what this bill will do. So my heart and prayer is that you guys would...
Thank you very much. Next, please.
Aloha and talofa.
My name is Elvila Giles. My number is 3897. I am a first-generation immigrant of Samoan goodly parents from New Zealand, and I am here to emphatically oppose to SB1, aka same-sex marriage. You have my written testimony, and I do thank you for all your hard work, House. I am very opposed to SB1 because, number one, it seeks to redefine marriage. Marriage is an institution ordained by God. For thousands and thousands of years, in fact, from the very beginning, marriage law has concerned itself with a particular kind of enduring bond between a man and a woman that includes sexual intercourse, the kind of act that can but does not always produce a woman's pregnancy. Thus, in my opinion, a homosexual relationship, regardless of how enduring it is, as a bond of loving commitment, does not and cannot include sexual intercourse leading to pregnancy. Thus, it is not a marriage. A marriage and a homosexual relationship are two different kinds of relationships, and it is a misuse of civil rights law to use that law to try to blot out the differences between two different kinds of things. Although marriage licenses are being issued by some states, it is not considered a marriage. There are in reality really no homosexual marriages. Access to marriage is not a civil right. It is a very specific right that is according to individuals because of their status as human beings. These rights are based on universal characteristics, not on feelings, not on desires, not on orientations, not on conduct. Our civil rights are freedom of speech, freedom of religion, and so forth. The other reason I'm highly opposed to this is it hurts our keikis. Out of the arguments, the most compelling is that it hurts children. It deprives children of a mother and a father, the two most important components to a marriage.
Thank you very
Please
much.
vote no.
Next, please.
Mahalo.
My name is Reverend Dr. Jonathan Steeper, number 3963. I am pastor of Kalihi Union Church. I was born here in Hawaii in 1960 for $1 at Kaiser Hospital. And I'm here to testify to the changes that do take place when marriage is by same-sex couples is legalized. We know, and I have experienced and seen these effects. If this bill is passed, it places the force of law, the courts, all of our government influence, our government resources, and money to promote and implement as good what is fundamentally opposed to the traditional values of this country. If this bill is passed, it will place the people of Hawaii with traditional views of family and marriage in opposition to what becomes in reality the new religion of the state. This is true in education systems, public and private, for parents, for teachers, students who are forced to comply with moral teaching against their conscience. Religious rights are restricted if one works for profit, hires employees, or is in government service for profit or for charity. I've lived through this in Albania, in Europe, where I worked in the Prime Minister's office, helping draft the Constitution on religious freedoms. I've also lived through this before this legislation happened in Canada in a professional capacity and afterward. I faced personal threats, and as a public leader, walked with thousands of people who find their religious convictions daily attacked by the government. I have seen them agonize over being forced to choose between capitulation to what they believe is morally wrong, or face censure, fines, lawsuits, or loss of jobs or professional advancement. A representative said he is voting yes because his view has evolved and it's loving, right, and true. I believe that labels me as being wrong, unloving, and false. Please vote no to this legislation. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Members, any questions for this last group of testifiers? Vice Chair Har.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Steeper, can you please come back up? Good afternoon, Mr. Steeper. Thank you for being here, and thank you for your testimony. You know, you come from a very unique place. Oftentimes we talk about being in America and all of our rights that we have, the freedoms that we enjoy. But having lived in Albania and as well as being a resident in Canada, Can you please give us some further insight? Because again, really what we're talking about here is 14th Amendment versus First Amendment. And so with respect to the First Amendment and the persecution or prosecution that those based in religious faith experience, can you please give us some insight into that?
Okay. I'm not a lawyer, but Dr. Bradley Miller, who is in the law school of University of Western Ontario, he's also a fellow at Princeton University, did an evaluation of the effects of same-sex marriage over the past 10 years in Canada as a recommendation to what the United States is facing. He covers the areas of the impact of human rights, parental rights in the public education system, the right to freedom of expression, and he also covers things like what it means for local churches. And I think in all of these, it boils down to me practically for a loss of freedom of conscience and expression, and of the individual in the street being able to express and exercise their faith.
Okay, so in Canada, I'm sorry, how long did you live in Canada?
I have lived in Canada technically for 50 years.
Okay.
9 of those I was resident in Albania.
Okay. So during the time that you were living in Canada, did you live there before same-sex marriage?
Yes.
Okay.
And I pastored a church for 10 years during that time.
So in your opinion, was there a change to society?
Massive change. This is like doing a complete U-turn of society because the essential foundations are redefined. And so everything, there are shock effects all the way down. Every part of society is affected, and the legislation that follows afterward in the application of that. So it covers everything from rights of politicians, which I've had in my congregations, to universities, to high schools, to elementary schools, to private businesses, all the way through in those areas. They're all impacted. And I think the media and what can be said, we could never have these kinds of discussions because it would be considered very discriminatory. And so one has to essentially hide their faith and couch it in terms of what is politically correct and discreet language. And that is very debilitating.
Okay, so have you read the religious exemption language in this bill?
Yes.
And are you aware of our public accommodations law?
Yes.
So would you say that this is, I mean, I've heard a lot of people say this is woefully inadequate with respect to the faith-based organizations, individuals, freedom of conscience, etc. So based on what you have read and based on what you've experienced having been a resident of Canada, being there before same-sex marriage was enacted and after?
I would go beyond that. It's not only woefully inadequate, it is putting in force what is actively destructive and will increase loss of rights. In the name of equality, it actually removes the human rights of a large proportion of the society. And in discussing with representatives here, you know, they're always concerned with protecting clergy, and my response is always, don't worry about protecting me, worry about protecting my children, worry about protecting my people. Because it's my children as they go through the education and as they have to pay the price.
Okay. Thank you very much, Mr. Sieber.
Thank you. Representative Johansson.
Oh, sorry, Pastor Jonathan, can you stay? Thank you. I think it's helpful to hear because we spent several days with people on both sides looking at what the future may look like, either post-passage of this bill or not, whereas you've actually been in a society and have some first-hand experience. My question, because I'm not terribly familiar with Canadian law, is, you know, is there any equivalent of the United States First Amendment rights guaranteed to Canadian citizens?
Yes.
So there is some equivalent in Canada. Yes. And so even with respect, and is it a fundamental right in the same way that yes. Americans conceive of it?
Yes.
For Canadian citizens it is?
Yes.
And so it's your contention that even though that fundamental right exists in Canada, that there, post the passage of same-sex marriage there, that there was some tension in reconciling? That
is the evaluation of the Law Society, is that in fact it actually not only labels those who oppose as bigots and then seeks to silence them, but the law that exists to protect society is not then applied evenly to those people out of fear. And so it's not just the existence of the law, it's the lack of application of that law, and that concerns me specifically in terms of Hawaii, because it's not just the laws that exist, it's how we apply them practically. And the vulnerability of those who are poor, the vulnerability of those who cannot afford legal help, and that is also identified in this report.
And in your view in Canada, when you talk about the lack of inconsistent application, was that from a governmental and ministerial perspective?
I'm sorry, say that again.
You referenced earlier, the lack of consistent application.
Yes.
And was that on the part of government?
Yes, as well as on just very, very practically. I mean, I had the classic florist, situation. A lady in my church who, found out that a wedding was a same-sex wedding. She found 2 other florists who would do it, called them, said, "I'm very sorry. This is a real conflict of my conscience." But then the next day it hit national news. It was a setup, went all through social media. She worked out of her home. She had 7 children, 2 of them handicapped. The children, we had damage to floral shops in the community because they thought they hit the wrong shop. She called me, and the family had to move out. They were demonstrated around their home illegally. They did not have a permit to do that, and yet even when we made those kinds of statements, the police would not act, because it sets up the people against all of the force of law and government. And most of us are humble or frightened or gentle enough that we don't tackle those things. And so no one wants to touch that kind of realm. And so I had to be in that house, praying with people as we were surrounded. And it is that kind of atmosphere that is in professional governing bodies, whether that's teachers' associations or people wanting promotions, that even though it may not be technically the law, it is assumed that now that the government has made this supposed equality, that it's untouchable, and that anyone who disagrees with that is actually in variance with the government position and discriminating.
Thank you, Pastor Jonathan. Thank you, Chair.
Members, any other questions? Representative Carroll.
Thank you, Chair. And thank you very much for being here. I was curious because you said that you lived in Canada for at least 50 years before and after same-sex or equality marriage was passed in Canada. My question to you is, earlier today, we had a testifier talk about killing this bill and creating a bill that was, I believe she used the word, morally neutral bill. In your wisdom or suggestion or recommendation, can you maybe give us an example of what that means?
I personally believe that you are dealing with a moral issue, and that you have to make a moral decision. And if you have a road and you take away the lines on a multi-lane highway, you cause chaos. If you take away the middle dividing line, in which traffic is then going in 2 directions, you cause crisis and accident. You are removing the most fundamental moral line in society and wanting to do it with no casualty. I've lived through 2 wars as a civilian. There are moral lines. And where there is no sexual boundary, there is no sexual safety. And that is precisely what we are setting up in our culture.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Chair.
Members, any other questions? Okay, seeing none, we're going to recess just briefly, maybe 10, 15 minutes. We'll be back at, what time is it now? We'll come back into session at 4:45. Recess.